Are you ready to scale and outsource your business?
Okay, let's go.
Welcome to the Outsourcing and Scaling Show. I'm your host, Nathan Hirsch, a show where we talk about everything Amazon, Shopify, e-commerce, and digital marketing. Let's get started. Welcome back to Outsourcing and Scaling. My name's Nate, the host, and I'm here with Tony Grebmeier. How are you doing today, Tony?
I am fantastic. You?
Doing great. Those of you that don't know, Tony has run multiple 8-figure businesses. That's right, 8 figures. And he's been running businesses online since 1996. I was only 7 years old when he started selling online. Very impressive. And we're going to talk about all of that. But first, let's take a gigantic step back. What were you like growing up? Were you a straight A student? Were you a rebel? Did you know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Those are some great questions to start. I wasn't a great student. I didn't have the attention to listen to what anybody was trying to tell me to do. So I was always in the back of the classroom causing trouble. The only problem was my mom was a school teacher in the district. And so I found myself in the principal's office all the time. And my mom always knew what I was up to. So I got in trouble a lot as a kid. It wasn't until literally high school where I made the switch in my mind to try to figure out, hey, I've got a talent. I'm going to go use it. And that's really where my entrepreneurial journey kind of began.
It's funny. My dad was a teacher at my high school, and I always felt like secretly the years that I was there were his least favorite years because I was the same way. I was always getting in trouble and messing with teachers and making him look bad. So it's funny that we both come from that. So you started in 1996. What was it like in 1996? I mean, I can't even imagine the internet back then.
So if you've seen the new movie Captain Marvel, there's a scene in Captain Marvel where they show Alta Vista. It was a search engine. There was Lycos. There was Excite, Yahoo. That was it. And that's kind of what I found online. Yeah, everybody had heard at the time of AOL. It was slow and archaic. People were being innovative and creative. They were mainly in the adult internet space, and they were bringing all the technology to what we use today with video conferencing, et cetera. But I was working at a radio station in San Jose as a DJ by day and entrepreneur by night, teaching myself how to blog, how to build websites, how to do SEO. So it's really starting from the foundation of anything could be created and what is it that I want to play with.
And so you started this marketing agency. How did you get your first client? Because I think a lot of people out there, a lot of our listeners are running agencies or they want to run agencies. What was that like?
So one of the pieces that I've always used to my advantage, and anybody can use it, is stick your hand out and tell people what you do. So many people think, well, because I run an online business, I'm just going to advertise online. And I'm like, no, tell your neighbor, tell your friends, go to dinner and, hey, who's running your marketing for your website? Or, hey, do you guys even have an SEO person? And the greatest gift we have is a mobile device that's more powerful than the first moon landing. I mean, the ship that took everybody to the moon, boom, didn't have the technology your cell phone has in it. So if you think about that, so you can literally sit at your table, Google the establishment you're at, look at their Google ratings and literally make a compliment or say, hey man, I would love to do a free analysis for you. And that's what I did then. And that's what I still do today to help businesses.
Yeah, and I feel like you always had the networking thing going. I mean, whenever I see you, you're always talking to very high-level people. I've seen you run dinners and other events. Talk to me a little bit about how important that's been and how you got into doing that.
Sure. I was a guest at many events, and I always am in observation mode. I'm always looking around. What could I do? If I was running this business, what would I switch up? So I use that as kind of my true north. I'm like, okay, if this was my business, what would I change? Or how could I improve it without spending any money? So I'm always thinking about that. Networking has always been pretty straightforward and easy for me. Because I stick my hand out first instead of having it in my pocket, I'm introducing myself. I'm getting to know people. I'm adding value before I ask for anything. And I think we also get that messed up. We're all like, well, I run an agency. You should come work with me. I'm like, they don't maybe want to. So how could I add value to them to give them the piece that causes them to be curious of like, what would Tony do? Or what would that company be able to help me to do? And so running events has really been a way to not have to tell people what we do, but to showcase who we network with. Like you just mentioned, multiple 7-figure and 8-figure businesses. Being around 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs who run those businesses, other people go, wow, like he must be doing something right. When I Google his name, nothing bad really comes up. So I kind of want to learn more about that guy. Oh, and he's run a business for 18 years. Wow. So he has longevity in an industry. All of those things have been like true benefits. And like what you're doing with your podcast, what a great value add, because now it's when someone searches your name, they're going to see your name plus all of these amazing people you've interviewed along the way. That just adds more credibility to who you are.
Right. And how did you get into doing your podcast? I've been a guest on it twice. What was the initial goal? I mean, how long ago did you start it?
Sure. My initial goal was, what the heck is podcasting? I think like 2015, I had heard enough podcasts and I'm like, do I really want to do this? Because I came from radio and I hung up the headphones 16 years earlier. A friend of mine was talking, Dan Meredith, another buddy of mine, Sammy Taggart, and Peter Lynch. We were all kind of in a conversation talking about the power of podcasting. And I said, you know what, man, I've been thinking about launching one because of radio and my love for business and people. Maybe I'll just do that. And I literally went home on a Friday, and by Monday I had pushed the show out with 3 episodes. And I've been asked this, how was it? I'm like, well, because I'm a perfectionist in everything I do, I made sure it was as good as it could be. And then I just made sure I worked really, really hard on improving it all of the time. As an entrepreneur, I think I have 2 things going against me. I have bright, shiny disorder. So I see something new, I want to go try it. That's a distraction. And then number 2, my buddy Ian Garlic always helps me to remember, version done is better than version none. And so like, it was easy for me to launch a podcast. It was called Entrepreneur Unplugged. There's a company that has that term and have had lawyers for years go after people using that word. So I quickly just changed it to Tony G because I was my radio broadcasting name. I did that for about a year and a half. I loved it. And I literally transitioned into the Be Fulfilled show to kind of align more with fulfillment, what we do for a living. But I also personally are helping people to be fulfilled in their life. And so it just kind of was an alignment thing. At first it was entrepreneur. That should get me a lot of listeners. Then it should be Tony G because that's me. And then I made it more about helping people to find fulfillment in their life.
I love it. So let's say there's someone listening right now and they're running a 6-figure, 7-figure business. They're listening to you. You've run multiple 8-figure businesses and they say, I want to get to that level. What would your advice be as someone who has seen a business grow to that 8 figures?
Another great question. I literally want to begin every day with the end in mind. What is the goal? Let's say you have a 12-month goal, 6-month goal, 3-month goal, 1-month goal. But what do you want to achieve today? And you have to ask yourself this. This is a great little way, an analogy is money-making activities. So MMA, everything you're doing needs to be if your goal is to hit a certain target, like 7 figures. So you want to do $1 million. So what are you doing today? You chunk down 52 weeks, you get your number. You're like, all right, I need to make $3,000 today. What am I doing to do that? And if you can't say, I know for sure, you find yourself in probably a distraction channel, doing stuff that's not helping you. So then when you get through your 1 month and you look back and you're like, man, I didn't have my calendar filled. I didn't have enough calls set up. I didn't have enough meetings scheduled. I didn't make it a point to send out creatives to potential opportunities or new customers. So we got to not kid ourselves and we have to get really granular and say, how important is this? Well, if you put out a goal in front of me, say, hey, Tony, what do you think we could do this year? I'm like, I'm shooting for 20 million. That's my goal this year. I'm trying for 20 million. Well, how are you doing so far? I'm like, I'm up every single month since January, and I'm doubling my target for next month, and I'm going to get there. How am I going to get there? I said, well, I got a sales team. So if someone's listening right now and doesn't have a sales team, you got to remember, then you probably are also your executive assistant, and you're probably also the janitor. You're probably also all these other people on your team. Right. And you have to just get some things clear. You have to first decide what you were built to do, not what you're stuck doing. So one of the things, Nathan, I want to give everybody listening right now, just something free, a great resource I created. My buddy Kevin Cohen years ago had mentioned these 2 words, and it really helped me to take and put everything into this kind of framework, which is drainersandDrivers.com. And I'll give away a 5-day free mini course. You literally do it. I instruct you through some videos. But what it's built for is to help you figure out what's draining you in your business and then what's driving you in your business. Anything that's draining you right now, Nathan's company, Free Up, they got tons of outsourced resources, everything that you need to kind of take those drainers off your table so you can spend more time in the drivers. Not everybody was built to be the driver on the bus. Some people were built to be the first passenger or the back passenger or the middle passenger. Your job is to find the right people who need to be on the bus, the ones who aren't helping you get to your destination. You need to drop them off as soon as you can at the quickest bus stop and say thanks, and you keep moving. Another lesson I learned, and this was a hard lesson, the people got you to 7 or 8 figures won't take you to 9. There's certain people that are only built for so much, and that's where they're at. And it's not that they're at fault. It's just that you need to know where people are best suited. And some people are just great, like in the middle of the day. I'm a starter and a finisher. The in-between stuff, that's why I hire great people around me who are great at integrating and making all that stuff happen.
Let's talk hiring for a little. We kind of segued into that. Is there a horror story or bad hiring experience that stands out that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, before using drainers and drivers, I've had some interesting hires. I don't think anyone has ever been bad. I mean, I've had a guy in my warehouse show up after he was let go with a knife, and he like threatened, hey, give me my job back, or, I'm going to cut you up. And I mean, this day and age, the internet is a powerful tool, negative and positive. And what I have seen is we need to do more at researching who we're really hiring. The NFL draft, they don't just draft a quarterback or a running back. And they send out a full assessment to go figure out how they were in high school. Kind of like your questions, how you were in high school. What are your relationships like? What kind of references do you keep as friends? And try to vet as much as you possibly can, especially if they're going to be taking any kind of monetary gains in your company. They need access to sales data, marketing material. They have a hand in your company. So you want to do the best that you possibly can. So we've had some interesting characters over the years. I mean, I've had people who go out to the parking lot and smoke pot at lunch and they think it's cool. I mean, yeah, we live in Colorado, but then they come back high. Right. And then it's not really fun to work with them. They're like, why are you yelling at me, man? I'm just like here to, do my job. So I have to remind myself, if I just stop for a moment and say, who do I want to work with? Well, I hire for culture. You're talented because you were able to apply for a job. You have a decent looking resume. You showed up in an interview. You look halfway nice and you keep good schedule. So it means you can show up and do your job. If I can get that skill, I can teach the rest of how our business works, but you culturally have to be a fit for our organization. And if not, like, see you later. And we live by, our core values, our mission statement behind the scenes, but you got to be willing to stick your hand out. Anybody that walks into the company, you need to stop what you're doing, walk over and introduce yourself. You need to make it a point where you're really focused on whatever it is in front of you. And usually a new person, even if it's a guest or a vendor or somebody walking by, we want to love on them first. Like everything we talked about so far is really helping people to see you care.
So you talked a lot about, hey, the people that you hire for 6 and 7 figures, not the same for people that you hire for 8. What are the types of people that you look for 8-figure businesses?
Another good question. 8-figure businesses is I want to see your resume. I want to see references and case studies and people that you've helped. And I literally just want to network with them and talk to them. So I'm always looking for, you probably have heard this somewhere in your line, success leaves clues. And so successful people have a formula that they believe in. Once again, it's like hiring a GM for an organization. You hire a GM based on kind of the results he's proven. You're not going to hire a coach that doesn't have a winning record. If you did, you're probably going to give him a job at a low, first year college, it's out in the middle of nowhere. But then if you see him kind of take not a lot of skill that he's got around him and turn it into a lot of talent, that he's probably got a winning formula. So I'm interested in finding those winning formulas. The people who are 8 figures, great reputation in the industry, somebody who's, willing to jump on a jet and go fly in and close a deal, somebody who is willing to stick their hand out again and say, hey, what is it that I can add value to your life? I'm not interested in people who need a lot to make them feel like it's a great opportunity. Most of the deals I get done are over lunch, a handshake, their word. I've seen some of the biggest deals happen, and I've never met them face to face other than, international wire transfers back and forth. A lot of it is just like what you and I are doing. We've hung out several times. but you build rapport and relationships with people. And once you look at their references and you make some phone calls, you realize that the person is super valuable and would be a great person to come on, either as a consultant or as a team member. I don't hire employees. I hire people who come into an organization and say, hey, I can help you do that. What hat you need me to wear today? Because I know we're thin in this one area. I got it. Don't worry about it. I hire people that I can count on, not people I have to babysit.
You said you hire people that you've never talked to before. And obviously this is the outsourcing scaling show. And a lot of what we do at FreeUp, I mean, a lot of people that have worked for me for years, I've never met in person or I've only met once. And I think that scares a lot of people. Some of the listeners out there that haven't been doing it for as long as we have, what advice would you have for hiring people remote?
Number one, the ease of use and communication. How reliable is that person when you try to reach out to them? Does it take them a long time to get back? If that's probably the case, it's probably going to be. I'm sure with the people that you outsource to, you also realize there's people who you can hire to work on your time zone, people who will sacrifice time in their country to get up for your hours. I look for that. I look for people who have great quality work. So outsourcing a web designer or outsourcing a programmer or outsourcing copy. I want to see samples of their work. I actually want to then actually have them put a Zoom call together and join the call. And I want them to walk me through maybe building a landing page, show me how they code, show me how they write copy. Where do they come up with their ideas? What keyword analysis structures are they using? Where do they find their content? You know, I want to see them do work with me, because I also say, you got an hour, here's the project, go. And I give them small little projects in a small test frame. And if they're like, I'm not going to do that, I'm like, next. And you're trying to find somebody who says, yes, I see your vision. I'm willing to do this because A, it's going to help me get the job, but B, it's going to help you to see the kind of work I can turn out. And I stay consistent in that. I don't do it one time, I do it all the time. So people, like today I was on a phone working on an outside sales guy. And I said, hey, I'm going to shoot you some stuff, some structure. I need you to get this back to me in an hour. Bam. 1 hour comes by. He's got a list of 3 people. He gave me a background on them. He can make intros. He can do phone calls. I'm always looking for a doer. I'm not looking for somebody who I have to teach.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So how do you structure meetings? You're meeting with all these different people, some in person, some over lunch, some over the phone. Do you have a basic structure or format that you follow, or does it just depend?
No, I have a real basic format. So I have a calendar. Calendly is what I use. I love it. I love the simplicity of it. So Calendly, and I only do 15-minute opportunity calls. So like if you and I were meeting for the very first time, doesn't matter if you came from, a high reference from Steve Jobs or, Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, you're still getting 15 minutes on my calendar, because if I keep my structure, I'm not pivoting for every person. So I'm staying structured. You get on my call, you fill out a question of what do you want to talk about? We cover what you talk about. And if you feel like there's added value and there's more that you need, then I schedule a follow-up call with somebody from our team. Right? I try to have as much touch as I can with all new people coming on board. I found that has been the helpful piece for me over 18 years running the type of business. Second thing is my lunches are always an hour. And if there's not a place picked, you always come here. And I have my executive assistant will schedule lunch and bring lunch in. We'll do all the behind the scenes of getting dietary restrictions, et cetera. And then we have an hour. So in 1 hour, you're going to eat. And you're going to talk to me about whatever it is that you want to talk about. Usually it's a networking opportunity. Someone referred you, sat down. I've had people fly in from New York just to have lunch for an hour. I've had people fly in from Florida. I've got somebody coming in from Utah tomorrow. Because it's such an hour of value, we can cover a lot. And then I have where I coach people at $1,000 an hour, which people go, you charge $1,000? I'm like, I should charge more. But yeah, 1,000. And what do we do is my goal is always to give you value in whatever time you have me. So hopefully today listeners are getting value. The fastest amount of value is, what is it that you need help with? Gary Vaynerchuk talks about it. Grant Cardone talks about it. What is it you need help with? And have you done your research? And if you haven't, I don't want to talk to you. So do your research ahead of time so you know what it is that you want for that structured, conversation. I'm always in it first to help them. I don't have a selfish agenda. I hope I build a great friendship, kind of like working with you over the years, just trying to build rapport and hey, add value to your life. You add value to my life. That's a win-win for me. I'll do that every day. I love referring business to people because it all comes back. Zig Ziglar talks about it. If you help enough people get what they want, you get everything you need. And so I've just lived with those simple mantras in life that have really strictly come down to what is it you need? How can I help you? And let me open my Rolodex of people I know and go make the intro. If you come back around saying, man, that was so awesome, I'd love to work with you. I'm like, that's cool. That's an added bonus. That's like getting dessert at a restaurant. You don't get it every time, but you get it. And when you get it, you know, man, that was really good. And I try to do that all the time. I try to be that person who's always adding so much value at the end. You're like, man, I need to refer you to my friend. Like, I need you to talk to so-and-so.
You've worked with a lot of people, you've networked with a lot of people, the ones that succeed opposed to the ones that fail. What is the major difference that you see?
Consistency. They simplify all resources and systems in their life. They're really effective at communication. And they all tell you how they like to communicate, right? Like my best form of communication is a text message first, just saying, hey, you got 5 minutes. It reminds me of a time in my life where my wife and I, when early on in our marriage, she used to give me a punch list for the weekend. She'd be like, I need you to do these 5 things. And I'd be like, oh no, give me one and I'm dialed in. Successful people are very laser focused. They know how to distribute the work to the right people. They know how to delegate. They know how to get the stuff off of their chest, but they also really know what they want. And I've run into some really, really successful people, and they all have one key ingredient. They all want to be of service, at least in my network. I was talking to Jeremy Wise just the other day. We were talking on the phone, and we were talking about being a giver, not needing something in return. So I really hold my kind of esteemed colleagues in that realm of people who are really out to make the world a better place. A good friend of mine, Jim Nelms, talks about it all the time. He says, you know, Tony, every single day you have an opportunity. All successful people follow this. What are you bringing to the table today versus taking? You know, go to a buffet sometime. That's awesome. You go to the buffet, there's a plate. That's kind of like what people think about life. They go, hey, let me just fill up my plate. There's more, I'll come back. There is an abundance, but you got to pay for it. Mm. Okay, so what could you do at a buffet when they run out of you know, utensils or plates or whatever? You could sit there and complain. I'm like, man, I'm paying for all this. Where's the chicken? Where's the meat? Where's this? You just walk up to somebody and you're like, hey, excuse me, I just want to let you know you're missing a couple dishes. By any chance, could you refill them? Do you need me to carry them for you? I'm happy. Successful people are willing to be of service.
Yeah,
straightforward and simple.
And one of the things you said resonates with me a lot. And I try to not work with people or do business with people that just don't know what they want. And a lot of times that'll be one of my first questions. Like, what do you want? And if they don't have an answer for that, it's really tough to proceed forward. Even with just problem solving in general. If someone has an issue and you're trying to solve it and you say, what do you want? And they can't answer that simple question, how are you even going to begin to solve that problem? It makes it tough. So I'm happy you said that. What's one thing that we missed? What's one thing that you want the audience to know? We're getting towards the end right now. Anything about entrepreneurship or scaling businesses?
I love it. I'm going to go back to what I think is the most crucial thing that we can hold today, is look at your journey. Reflect back on your journey about where you're at right now. Everything you've gone through, the good, the bad, and the ugly, brought you to this very moment. So you already know that it's possible that you can get through anything. So as Nathan says, you know, what is it that you want is really focus on that. And then ask yourself, well, what do I need? How am I going to back into this? And then resources. Well, Tony mentioned drainersandrivers.com. I also came out with a journal earlier last year called Be Fulfilled Journal to help people kind of create their day, but also to make sure they follow through. And I put a community behind it. But the piece that I really want to give you today, and I think if you give me like 30 seconds, I'll try to wrap it up like this. So you woke up today and you have a choice when you wake up in the morning is to go busy to go help somebody else or to make sure you help yourself. Right? And we talked a lot today about, you know, being of service. Be of service and help yourself. You get on an airplane, the first thing you kind of learn is put the oxygen mask on yourself. Do that every single day for yourself. Give yourself some time to meditate, some time to journal, some time just to be you before you get busy in helping others, because you'll show up differently then. You'll show up that you actually care. It's not like a rush decision. I remember being a parent early on and, you know, there's a screaming kid and I didn't have a good night's sleep and I'm running in to go get my kid and I'm here you go, take it to my wife. And like, you take care of him, feed him. I'm going back to bed. And, you know, you're just grumpy and your day starts out like that. But when I actually set my alarm for way before the time my son would wake up, and I would get a chance to meditate and just a chance to journal and just a chance to be, when my son woke up, I walked in, I'm like, "Good morning, how you doing? It's so good to see you. Yeah, you want to go play and see mom? Let's go do it." It's such a different transition then. And then everything builds kind of from that. So I tell people, reflect on how far you've come and never forget you have greatness inside of you. You weren't designed to fail. You were designed to succeed. And whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you desire in life, I believe if you network and you take good care of people, and Gandhi's mantra, be the change, is like work really, really hard on yourself so you can go help others. It all comes back full circle, that there's more than enough to go around. And find something that you love with passion. Find something that you love to do every single day that isn't a job, but it's something that you just wake up thinking and you can't wait to go to bed because you're so excited about what you get to do tomorrow. But also find time to switch off all of the work so you can get really, really present in your home life. My 2 kids literally have gone right before my eyes, and in 18 and 20 years are growing up. And I feel like for much of my young entrepreneurial journey, I wasn't present with my kids. Probably 5 to 7 years, I was just so busy, work. And so now my wife and I, we're dating again. We're excited. We're like, I'm like spoiling her. She's spoiling me. We're talking about trips. It's like the empty nesters kind of vacation. That's what we're working on. My wife's 40 years old. I'm 46. And I mean, life happened just like that. And it'll happen like that for anybody who's listening today. Don't think it won't. Time runs out and you just need to work on you. And if you work on you, all the other pieces kind of fall into play. Those are some of the biggest things that I think as an entrepreneur, I wish somebody would have told me earlier. No one handed me a playbook. No, Nate, did anybody hand you a playbook?
Absolutely not.
I bet your dad or your mom gave you some insight to kind of live life. But when it came to running a business and all the other things, you saw it from afar, but you only got good at doing it when you did it. Yeah, and those are the kinds of things. But anybody listening today, I'd love to just give $10 off the Be Fulfilled Journal. I'm going to short sell it. It's the thing that changed my life 10 years ago, and it's the thing that I put out to help other entrepreneurs in their path. So free up with 3 E's, you'll save $10. So it's got an online community, and it also has an online guide. And so it's tons of value, tons of support, and it really walks you through a 12-week program to help you journey on your way to fulfillment.
Guys, check out Tony, check out the Be Fulfilled Journal. Any other way you want people to get a hold of you?
Nah, you can find me on social media. I try to connect wherever I can. And I just want to say it's an absolute privilege and an honor to be on your show today, and love what you're up to. I love the fact that you said yes to going out and figuring out how to make the world a better place. So thank you for doing that.
Really appreciate it. It means a lot coming from you, and let's keep crushing 2019.
All right, bro.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. Did you enjoy this content? If so, click like, leave us a comment, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you great content all about hiring.